Hey everyone, it's a beautiful Saturday day, the 25th day of January, the 25th day of the year, and today's video journal is going to be about me just talking about how I think we should move on from this erratic, chaotic time period that we're living in. And these are just my opinions, and this is my point of view from my past experiences and things that I've read, and my own, you could say, mystical experiences, but take it with a grain of salt. But these are just my thoughts. I think we should live in a world where there is more humility, where people are more humble in the sense that they can admit when they're wrong, they can admit to their shortcomings, they can admit to the things that they've done that might have hurt somebody else. I think if we begin to live in a world where we can admit we were wrong, we can admit that we're not perfect and that we make mistakes, I think the world would be a better place. And I think a lot of people are missing that in all ages, whether that be in old age or a young person. All ages suffer from this disease of not being able to have humility. And humility does not equate to humiliation. Humiliation is a betrayal, a slight to your ego. It could be something, a scathing comment that bruises your ego, or an action that destroys your integrity in the eyes of others. So that can be a humiliation. Humility, on the other hand, is an act of surrender. It's an act of being able to say to yourself and to others that you're not perfect and that you're trying your best in this world, in this life. And you see it not just in politics where, politicians, they might have said something way erratic, and then they probably look back at what they said and they're probably thinking, wow, I really fucked up when I said that. But since they can't admit when they're wrong, they have to double down and use other excuses and say, oh yeah, but I said that because of this and this and this situation that is not even correlated to the idiocy that they said. But anyway, if all that makes sense. We don't see it just with politicians not being able to admit when they're wrong and have a little bit of humility and admit to the American people that, they're not perfect, but they're trying their best. Humility takes honesty. It takes being honest. It takes being humble, right? It takes being vulnerable, because you're admitting that you're not perfect, and so you're admitting to the other person that you have imperfections. And sometimes we want to be the heroes of our own stories, and we want to think of ourselves and others to think of us as these perfect, angelic beings that can do no wrong. But that's just an illusion, And so I think if you can admit when you're wrong and have a bit of humility, surrender to your ego, surrender your ego. That's what I mean. Surrender your ego and surrender to knowledge. Because when you surrender your ego, you're able to allow new perspectives to come in, new ways of thinking, new ideas that make more sense and that are more true for you and for your life, and that make your life better. So that's what humility brings. It brings peace. So don't be afraid to be humble. Don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong, to say sorry when you've made a mistake, to try and do better, not just say sorry or admit when you're wrong, but to actively try and be better, knowing that you'll never be perfect, you'll never be fully righteous, and there will always be room for improvement. But in this lifetime, as much as you can learn to grow into who you were meant to be, the beautiful blossom you were meant to be. So I think our world needs more humility. I think we need to surrender our ego, surrender our ideas, our beliefs, our perspectives, and just being okay with being wrong. Being okay with saying, okay, yes, I was wrong. That doesn't make me more unworthy, or that doesn't make me a failure. I was just wrong about this perspective, and now I want to change. I think differently. And even the few times when politicians are able to admit, let's say they had a stance on a certain economic policy a few years ago, but years later it comes out that the policy was detrimental to the economy. Very few times some politicians will come to the American public and say to them, hey, yes, I messed up and now I believe this and this. They won't apologize and they won't say sorry, but sometimes they will admit that they were wrong and now they believe differently. Stances on abortion, some politicians will be against abortion and then years later they are pro-abortion, or things like that, and sometimes when these politicians do that, they call them flip-floppers. Oh, they flip-flopped, as if we're just bounded by our perspectives, and that's what we have to believe for the rest of our lives, even though we're taught, we discover something that is totally the opposite of what we believed was true. So yes, politicians do flip-flop, of course, for self-interested reasons, but normal people, plebeians like us, we're not in that kind of realm. So it's okay to change our perspective. It's okay to discover and explore different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things, and seeing if that works for you. Not believing that is the truth just because somebody else says that is the truth, but going on that journey on discovering the truth for yourself and having humility, having an open mind, that you may find things that contradict what you believed in the past. So yeah, don't be afraid to discover new things, okay? So I'm wishing you a great day, and I hope you have a great life. Peace and love. Bye.